Jesus never treated money as a taboo, and he also never treated money as the end goal. He spoke about finances all the time, but he always connected money to the heart, to decisions, and to inner governance. When Jesus taught about resources, he was not trying to create anxious rich people. He was forming free people, free from a scarcity mindset, free from the fear of lack, free from emotional dependence on money, free from idolatry disguised as necessity. Because, according to Jesus, the greatest financial problem never starts in the bank account. It starts in the place where money rules the heart. And today, as you listen to this, something needs to be adjusted on the inside. Declare with inner agreement, without rushing, I am not governed by the fear of lack. I do not make financial decisions from anxiety. I do not place my security in unstable things. I learned from Jesus to handle resources with wisdom, balance, and eternal vision. Jesus taught that where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. This is not a threat, it is a diagnosis. He was saying, watch where your money goes, and you will understand who governs your life. And this teaching is not meant to produce guilt. It is meant to produce awareness. Because when awareness changes, the flow changes. And if you sense that your relationship with money needs healing, alignment, or maturity, write in the comments now, as a simple act of positioning, I am learning to govern resources with Jesus. This is not for the algorithm. It is to mark intention. One of Jesus' strongest teachings about finances begins like this. Do not worry about what you will eat, drink, or wear. Jesus was not saying, do not work, do not plan, do not manage. He was saying, do not let anxiety govern your decisions. Anxiety creates poor choices. Anxiety rushes what should mature. Anxiety leads people to accept less than they are worth. Anxiety pushes people into wrong agreements. Jesus teaches that provision functions best when the mind is aligned, not desperate. And here is a powerful spiritual code. Those who trust in God's care do not enter scarcity, they enter discernment. Discernment to know when to move forward. Discernment to know when to wait. Discernment to recognize real opportunities and reject traps disguised as provision. Declare now, out loud or internally, I do not act driven by anxiety. I do not trade my peace for quick money. I trust that provision comes with direction. I receive wisdom to manage, grow, and prosper with balance. Jesus also said, seek first the kingdom, and all these things will be added to you. This is not poetry. It is an order of priority. When the kingdom governs first, decisions improve connections, align resources, find the right path, and notice this, Jesus said, added, not chased. Now, without pressure, simply as alignment. If this kind of teaching makes sense to you, subscribe to the channel. Here, the conversation about finances is not superficial. It is mature, spiritual, and practical. Jesus taught about finances through stories because money reveals character before it reveals balance. Every parable about resources is, in fact, a spiritual X-ray. When Jesus speaks about the talents, he is not speaking only about money. He is speaking about responsibility over what has been entrusted. The mistake of the servant who buried the talent was not lack of ability. It was fear. Fear of losing. Fear of taking risks. Fear of moving forward. And here's a principle that almost no one teaches. In the logic of the kingdom, not using what you received is as serious as wasting it. Jesus shows that resources, financial, opportunities, ideas, time, must circulate. The kingdom does not function by retention. It functions by conscious movement. Declare in alignment, I do not bury what I have received. I do not become paralyzed by fear of making mistakes. I use with wisdom what has been entrusted to me. I steward resources with vision, not insecurity. Jesus makes it clear that being faithful in little does not mean having little. It means governing well what you have now. Prosperity, according to Jesus, begins with maturity, not quantity. And if you sense that you have already received more than you have been using, ideas, opportunities, callings, capacities, declare with conviction, I put into motion what God has entrusted to me. This is not an empty promise. It is a course correction. Jesus never taught absolute ownership. He taught stewardship. Stewardship is not poverty, and it is not accumulation without purpose. Stewardship is understanding this. The resource passes through me, but it does not originate in me. When someone sees themselves as the absolute owner, the heart hardens. When someone sees themselves as a steward, the flow remains open. That is why Jesus strongly warned against attachment, not against money. Attachment creates fear of loss. Fear creates short-sighted decisions. Short-sighted decisions block growth. And here is a powerful teaching from Jesus. You cannot serve two masters. He did not say money is evil. He said money cannot govern. When money governs, rest disappears, comparison grows, anxiety takes control. When God governs, discernment leads, strategy is formed, provision flows, declare now with awareness. Money does not govern my decisions. Fear does not control my steps. I serve God with everything I steward. I prosper without losing my peace. Jesus also taught something profound when he spoke about the foolish rich man, the man who accumulated without realizing that his life was not guaranteed. The problem was not planning. It was planning without purpose. Jesus shows that resources without eternal vision become a burden. But resources aligned with the kingdom become tools for expansion. And here is a very practical point. Prosperity without purpose creates emptiness. Purpose without provision creates frustration. Jesus teaches the balance of both. When Jesus multiplied the loaves and the fish, he did not begin by asking for more. He began by organizing what was already there. That detail changes everything. Jesus did not treat lack as the starting point. He treated order as the starting point. He told the people to sit down. He separated them into groups. He created structure before increase. Because in the kingdom, growth without structure turns into waste. There are people asking for multiplication while living in emotional, mental, and financial disorganization. Jesus teaches that the miracle flows better when there is alignment. Declare now, with clear intention, I organize before I multiply. I honor what I already have before asking for more. I prepare structure to sustain growth. I receive increase with maturity. Jesus also did not centralize the multiplication. He broke the bread and handed it to the disciples to distribute. This reveals another powerful principle. In the kingdom, multiplication passes through aligned hands. Those who learn to distribute correctly grow without losing themselves. Those who centralize everything block the flow. Prosperity, according to Jesus, is not accumulation, it is circulation with responsibility. And here comes an important adjustment. Many people want more money, but they have not yet learned to handle more responsibility. Jesus taught growth without exploitation, where no one loses so that someone else can gain. Declare an agreement. I prosper without exploiting. I grow without diminishing anyone. I advance with ethics, clarity, and purpose. My growth honors God and blesses people. I grow with structure and purpose. Jesus did not teach generosity as a religious obligation. He taught generosity as a principle of freedom. When he praised the widow who gave 2 small coins, it was not about the amount, it was about awareness. She did not give out of pressure, she gave out of alignment. Jesus teaches that motivation defines the effect of the resource. Giving out of fear produces loss. Giving out of vanity produces burden. Giving out of awareness produces continuous flow. And here is something profound. Jesus never asked anyone to give beyond their maturity. He confronted excesses, not healthy limits. He confronted religious leaders who exploited others in the name of faith. He confronted systems that took without caring. This reveals that Jesus cares not only about how much you prosper, but how you prosper. Declare now, with balance, I prosper with justice. I steward resources with awareness. I am not driven by guilt or vanity. I live abundance with integrity. Jesus also taught that those who are trustworthy receive more, not because of favoritism, but because of preparation. The flow of the kingdom responds to people who know how to steward, know how to wait, know how to discern, and this applies to money, opportunities, connections, and influence. If you want to keep receiving this kind of teaching, deep, biblical, and applicable, subscribe to the channel. Here, you learn to prosper without losing your essence. Few passages have been as misunderstood as Jesus' conversation with the rich young ruler. Jesus was not condemning wealth. He was revealing an internally misaligned form of governance. The young man had resources, moral obedience, and religious discipline. But there was something still governing him, security rooted in possession. When Jesus asks him to sell everything, it is not a universal rule. It is a personalized diagnosis. Jesus always addresses the heart before he addresses money. Here's the point almost no one notices. Jesus did not ask everyone to sell everything. He asked only the one whose money had become the center of his identity. The problem was never what the young man had. It was what had him, and this is deeply relevant today. There are people now who even prosper, but live trapped in the fear of losing. That fear produces excessive control, rigidity, anxiety, and isolation. Jesus teaches something liberating. Healthy wealth does not control decisions. It serves aligned decisions. Declare now with mature awareness. Money does not define who I am. I am not controlled by what I possess. I am free to steward, release, and move forward. I govern resources. Resources do not govern me. Jesus looks at that young man with love, not condemnation. This shows that detachment is not punishment. It is an invitation to freedom. When something occupies the wrong place, the flow gets blocked. When the place is corrected, the flow begins to move again. Jesus never romanticized poverty, but he also never idolized wealth. He taught sufficiency with purpose. When he says it is difficult for a rich person to enter the kingdom, he is not talking about bank balance. He is talking about internal dependence. That is why he completes the statement by saying that with God, all things are possible. In other words, the kingdom does not exclude the rich. It transforms how they relate to resources. Jesus taught that healthy prosperity happens when the heart is free, the mind is aligned, the identity is firm. Detachment is not giving up everything. Detachment is not being enslaved by anything. Declare now, with clarity, I do not depend on money for my value. I do not use money to fill emptiness. I steward resources with inner freedom. I prosper without losing my essence. Jesus also taught that whoever leaves something for the sake of the kingdom receives it back multiplied, not as a commercial exchange, but as a consequence of alignment. When life is organized around the right priorities, return happens in a sustainable way. And here is a very practical principle. Those who trust God do not make rushed financial decisions. Those who trust God do not submit to wrong agreements out of fear. Those who trust God know how to wait for the right time. Jesus was never against planning. He was against planning governed by fear. When he says to count the cost before building a tower, he is teaching something deeply financial, long-term vision. Jesus does not praise irresponsible improvisation. He praises those who know how to calculate, anticipate, and sustain. But notice the balance. He never separates planning from trust. Planning without trust creates excessive control. Trust without planning creates instability. Jesus' teaching brings the two together. There are spiritual people who reject planning, thinking it shows lack of faith. And there are strategic people who reject faith, thinking it is naive. Jesus corrects both extremes. He teaches that faith guides the plan, and the plan protects the future. Declare now, in inner alignment, I plan with wisdom. I do not act on financial impulse. I do not ignore the future, nor do I live enslaved to it. I trust God and steward with responsibility. Jesus also taught that whoever is faithful with little is given authority over much. This reveals something essential. Prosperity grows through consistency, not through haste. Financial haste creates shortcuts. Shortcuts create invisible losses. Jesus protects us from these shortcuts by teaching prudence. If you sense that you need to mature your relationship with financial decisions, write in the comments now. I choose wisdom and consistency. This inner positioning changes the rhythm of your choices. Jesus spoke often about tomorrow, but never to produce fear. He said, each day has its own care. This does not mean neglecting the future. It means not being consumed by it. Anxiety about tomorrow steals clarity from today, and decisions made in anxiety almost always come at a high cost. Jesus teaches something deeply financial here. Those who live anxious try to control what does not yet exist. Those who trust prepare without losing their peace. Peace, according to Jesus, is not the absence of challenges. It is the presence of direction, and direction reduces waste. When there is peace, decisions become cleaner, negotiations become clearer. Wrong opportunities lose their appeal. Declare now, with serenity, I am not governed by fear of the future. I make decisions with clarity and peace. I trust that provision follows direction. My tomorrow is secure because my choices are aligned. Jesus also taught that God cares for the details, birds, lilies, natural cycles. He was not teaching passivity, he was teaching divine order. If God cares for what you cannot control, he also equips you to care for what is in your hands. This balance produces real financial stability. Jesus did not treat debt as just numbers. He treated debt as unbalanced relationships. When he spoke about the creditor and the debtor, Jesus revealed something essential. The greater problem is not owing, it is remaining trapped in a structure that drains dignity, peace, and vision. That is why he confronted systems that exploited people in the name of religion, power, or necessity. He was not neutral in the face of economic injustice. Jesus did not normalize financial abuse. He exposed it. Integrity for Jesus is not only personal honesty, it is taking a stand against structures that drain life. And here is a strong teaching for today. Not every agreement is healthy just because it is common. Not every debt is only financial. Some are emotional and spiritual. There are people working only to sustain cycles they were never called to carry. Jesus confronts this with clarity. Declare now, with firm awareness, I do not accept structures that drain me. I do not normalize cycles that steal my peace. 1. Choose integrity, even when it requires adjustment. I prosper with justice and clarity. Jesus taught that those who live with integrity do not need to manipulate outcomes. Results come as a consequence. He also taught that forgiveness releases, including in the financial realm. Forgiveness does not erase responsibility, but it removes the invisible weight that blocks future decisions. If you sense that you need to reorganize financial relationships, agreements, or boundaries, write in the comments, I choose integrity and freedom. This inner alignment changes the ground. Jesus did not speak only about loss. He spoke about restoration. When Zacchaeus encounters Jesus, something changes immediately. Awareness. Zacchaeus was not pressured. He was transformed. And transformation produced concrete action to repair, to return, to adjust. Jesus shows that true prosperity includes honoring others. Restitution is not impoverishment. It is clearing the path for greater flow. When adjustments are made, guilt loses its grip. Fear loses ground, trust grows. Jesus declared salvation over Zacchaeus' house after practical alignment. This teaches something profound. The kingdom touches the heart, but it also reorganizes practice. Honor attracts favor. Transparency attracts stability. Responsibility attracts sustainable growth. Declare now, with maturity, I align my practice with my faith. I adjust what needs to be adjusted. I do not prosper at the expense of others. My growth produces peace, not burden. Jesus taught that those who walk in honor build something that lasts. Not fast growth, but solid growth. Jesus spoke little about interest, but he spoke a lot about time. Because in the kingdom, time is the most strategic resource of all. When Jesus says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also, he is not speaking only about money. He is speaking about attention, energy, and priority. What you feed daily grows, what you ignore weakens. And here's a silent financial mistake many people make: investing time in environments that do not return growth. Jesus did not waste presence. He chose where to invest his time, his words, and his energy. This is financial wisdom applied to life. Poorly invested time creates invisible delay. Well-invested time creates continuous harvest. Declare now, with clarity, I steward my time with awareness. I invest energy in what helps me grow. I withdraw attention from what drains me. My focus produces return. Jesus taught that wrong priorities produce certain losses. That is why he lived with intention. Every conversation had purpose. Every movement had direction. Every pause had meaning. If you sense that you need to reorganize priorities, time, focus, energy, declare now, I align my time with my purpose. This simple adjustment changes the rhythm of life. Jesus never promised immediate return. He promised true return. He taught that there are investments that seem slow, but they build something that does not fade. When he speaks about seeds, he is teaching strategic patience. Not everything returns quickly, but everything that is planted correctly returns at the right time. Jesus delivers us from the mindset of quick gain that charges a high price later. He teaches us to choose returns that do not corrode conscience, do not break relationships, do not steal peace. This kind of return sustains the future. Declare now, with maturity, I choose sustainable gains. I do not trade peace for haste. I plant with long-term vision. My return is solid and lasting. Jesus also taught that some harvests come with greater responsibility. That is why he prepares character before releasing expansion. Return without preparation becomes a burden. Return with preparation becomes legacy. And here's a quiet teaching from Jesus. Not every kind of growth needs to be announced. Some need to be protected. If this kind of perspective is organizing your choices and decisions, subscribe to the channel. Here, you learn to prosper with spiritual intelligence, not impulse. Jesus never began by changing external circumstances. He always began by establishing inner governance. That is why, when he spoke about the kingdom, he did not first speak of territory. He spoke of inner authority. Authority for Jesus is not control over people. It is mastery over oneself. Those who do not govern their thoughts, emotions, and impulses cannot sustain healthy financial growth. Jesus taught that life flows better when a person knows how to say yes. At the right time, no, without guilt now, with clarity later, without anxiety. This kind of governance prevents the waste of resources, time, and energy. Declare now, in inner alignment, I govern my decisions. I do not act on impulse. I do not yield to momentary pressure. I act with awareness, clarity, and purpose. Jesus showed that those who have inner authority do not need to prove anything externally. This completely changes one's relationship with money. When ego governs, money becomes a tool for validation. When the spirit governs, money becomes an instrument of purpose. And here is a deep principle. External expansion respects the limits of inner governance. If the inside is disorganized, expansion turns into chaos. If the inside is aligned, expansion flows with stability. If this teaching is helping you strengthen your decisions and posture, write in the comments, I govern my life with awareness. This positioning strengthens the inner axis. Jesus did not separate the spiritual from the practical. For him, everything was connected. When he spoke with authority, people felt clarity, not confusion. This also applies to finances. Spiritual authority applied to money means knowing when to move forward, knowing when to step back, knowing when to invest, knowing when to preserve. Jesus taught that right decisions do not come from fear, they come from discernment. Discernment prevents silent losses. Discernment protects future growth. Declare now, with firmness, I act with discernment. I recognize real opportunities. I reject traps disguised as gain. My decisions produce peace and progress. Jesus also taught that those who have authority do not need to negotiate principles in order to prosper. Integrity, for him, was non-negotiable. This creates a kind of prosperity that does not depend on manipulation, but on alignment. And here is something essential. Spiritual authority attracts trust. Trust attracts opportunities. Sustainable opportunities build prosperity. Jesus never taught a passive faith. He never encouraged waiting without movement. Whenever someone approached him expecting a miracle, Jesus responded with a question, a command, or a direction. Go, get up, show, give, follow. This reveals something powerful. True faith always generates aligned action. In the financial realm, this changes everything. Many people believe but do not move. Others move but without direction. Jesus taught the balance. Faith plus responsibility plus conscious movement. Declare now, in alignment with this principle, I move with faith and responsibility. I act without anxiety. I advance without recklessness. My choices build, not destroy. Jesus showed that the miracle does not replace the process. It accelerates the process when there is alignment. That is why he taught, whoever is faithful with little is faithful with much. This is not about monetary value, it is about posture. The way you manage the little reveals whether you can sustain the much. If you neglect small resources, large resources become a burden. But when there is awareness in the small, growth happens naturally. Declare with conviction, I honor what I have today. I steward with wisdom. I prepare space for more. My faith moves with awareness. Jesus never multiplied anything that was not first presented. There was always something offered, something acknowledged, something put in order. Multiplication came afterward. This reveals a deep spiritual financial principle. What is not organized is not multiplied. Jesus taught that before the miracle, there is adjustment. Before expansion, there is alignment. Before financial growth, there is maturity. Declare now, bringing inner order. I organize my life. I organize my decisions. I organize my resources. I create space for multiplication. Jesus also taught that abundance does not come from accumulation, it comes from healthy circulation. The bread was broken. The resource was distributed. And only then there was overflow. This breaks a myth. Prosperity is not about holding everything. It is about allowing the right flow to happen. When the flow is healthy, there is no scarcity, there is no fear, there is no waste. Declare with clarity. I allow the right flow. I do not hold back out of fear. I do not waste out of impulse. I live in balance and provision. This kind of teaching builds a financial mindset that is stable. mature, and sustainable, exactly as Jesus taught. When Jesus spoke about money, he went straight to the place where decisions are born. He said not to live in anxiety, not because needs do not exist, but because anxiety shifts the source of trust. Anxiety causes people to decide out of fear and haste from survival mode through comparison, and decisions made from that place are costly. Jesus taught something revolutionary. When anxiety governs, money governs along with it. But when trust governs, money stops being a master and becomes a tool. Declare now, bringing this alignment. I do not make decisions driven by anxiety. I do not chase what does not belong to me. I do not make financial choices to prove my worth. My trust defines my decisions. Jesus taught that those who live anxious are constantly trying to control tomorrow, and that produces wear, not provision. Provision flows when the heart is in the right place. This does not mean passivity, it means clarity. Declare with firmness. I trust without neglecting. I plan without anxiety. I act without desperation. My heart is anchored, not pressured. When Jesus said, "Seek first the kingdom," he was not talking about religion, but about inner priority. What occupies first place within you defines how you relate to money. If fear occupies first place, money becomes an escape. If purpose occupies first place, money becomes a tool. Jesus taught that when the eyes are healthy, the whole body is filled with light. This is not only spiritual, it is extremely practical. Confused vision produces confused decisions, and confused decisions create financial instability. Jesus taught that simplicity is clarity, not poverty. Simplicity is knowing what comes and what goes out, what is priority, what is distraction. Declare now, bringing focus. My vision is clear. My priorities are defined. My financial choices reflect wisdom. I cut off excesses that drain my energy. Jesus never taught excess. He taught sufficiency with purpose. Excess disorganizes, sufficiency sustains. That is why those who constantly chase more, without clarity of purpose, remain tired even when they gain. But those with clear vision, grow with stability, prosper without losing peace, advance without losing themselves. Declare with alignment. I am not governed by excess. I am not guided by comparison. I walk with clarity, purpose, and direction. What I build lasts. If this content is reshaping the way you think and live your finances, subscribe to the channel. Here, growth is not noise. It is consistency. Jesus never demonized money. He redefined what wealth is, and that difference completely changes the way someone prospers. For Jesus, true wealth is not what accumulates on the outside. It is what sustains decisions on the inside. That is why he said that where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. This is not poetry, it is a diagnosis. The heart always runs toward what it considers valuable. Declare now, bringing this inner adjustment. My heart is not bound to money. My heart is aligned with purpose. Money follows me. It does not govern me. Jesus taught that people can be rich on the outside and completely poor on the inside. And people can begin simple on the outside and be extremely rich on the inside. And those always prosper in the right time. Because inner wealth sustains growth, withstands pressure, maintains clarity, prevents collapse. Declare with awareness, I build wealth that lasts. I grow without losing who I am. I move forward without being corrupted. My prosperity is sustainable. Jesus called it foolish to accumulate without direction. Not because accumulation is wrong, but because accumulation without purpose creates emptiness. When purpose governs, money finds its place. When money governs, purpose is lost. Declare with alignment, purpose leads my choices. Money obeys my purpose. My life grows with meaning. My wealth begins on the inside. This shifts the axis of your prosperity. Jesus was direct. No one can serve two masters. This is not about religion. It is about identity. Those who serve money live trying to prove their worth. Those who live in the kingdom know who they are, and therefore use money with freedom. Jesus freed people from the fear of lack before multiplying any resource. Because while fear governs, provision never brings rest. Declare now, stepping into that freedom, I do not need to prove my worth with money. I do not need to compete in order to exist. I do not need to go into debt to belong. My identity comes from God. Jesus taught that financial freedom begins when identity is settled. When identity is fragile, money becomes a crutch, consumption becomes anesthesia, status becomes a prison. But when identity is firm, Money becomes a tool, growth becomes a consequence. Prosperity becomes light, declare with firmness. I am free on the inside. I use money with wisdom. I grow without losing my peace. My identity is secure. Jesus taught prosperity in a way that breaks common logic. While the world says, hold, accumulate, protect, retain, Jesus says, trust, align, move, release. This is not a contradiction, it is spiritual strategy. In the kingdom, excessive retention generates stagnation. Aligned movement generates multiplication. Declare now with awareness. I do not hold back out of fear. I do not freeze out of insecurity. I move with direction. My prosperity flows. Jesus did not multiply resources in environments of control. He multiplied them in environments of trust. When the mind trusts, heaven responds. When the heart closes, the flow stops. Declare, I trust the process. I trust the direction. I trust the right timing. And therefore I move forward. Jesus taught that those who understand the kingdom do not live counting what is missing. They live discerning what has already been released. This awareness changes everything. Many people pray for provision, but ignore direction. Jesus never fed the crowds without first organizing the environment. He asked them to sit down, to establish order, to create alignment. Because provision without direction becomes waste, but provision with direction becomes legacy. Declare now, I receive provision with direction. I receive resources with wisdom. I receive growth with responsibility. My life comes into order. Jesus showed that before the visible miracle, there is an invisible decision to organize internally. So today, declare, my mind is being organized. My decisions are being aligned. My financial life enters clarity. The kingdom does not sustain prolonged disorder. It sustains aligned processes. And when that happens, resources find their path. Jesus never taught a fight against money. He taught dominion. Those who fight with money live tired. Those who govern money live in peace. And governance begins on the inside. Declare now with calm authority, I no longer fight with money. I govern with wisdom. I use resources with purpose. My relationship with money is healthy. Jesus taught that anxiety adds nothing, it only drains energy. So declare, I release financial anxiety. I release fear of the future. I release pressure for immediate results. I trust the process of the kingdom. When anxiety falls, clarity rises. When clarity rises, decisions improve. When decisions improve, prosperity is established. If this is reorganizing the way you think, write in the comments, I govern with wisdom. This seals this inner adjustment. Maybe you noticed, this stopped being just teaching. At some point while you were listening, something began to move on the inside. It's because when Jesus taught, it was never just to inform, it was to reposition. Kingdom teaching does not end with understanding. It ends when something inside you changes place. And now, this is that point. This is no longer about learning. It is about assuming posture. Take a deep breath for a moment, not to relax, but to align. Declare silently, right where you are. I do not just understand, I take my position. I receive direction. I assume governance. Because there are moments when heaven observes whether you only agree or whether you step in. And this is one of those moments. What has been spoken so far has organized your mind. Now, what comes next will activate the spirit. This is not emotion. It is not repetition. It is alignment. If you sense that this content is not random, that it did not reach you by accident, that it touched very specific areas of your life, then do not watch passively. Step in. Assume your place. Because what we are about to do next is not a ritual. It is a conscious spiritual act. And when someone enters like this, heaven responds differently. If you are aware of this moment, declare now, I step in aligned. This is not for me. It is for you to mark your position. Eternal God who governs the visible and the invisible, who establishes times, removes limits, and calls into existence what has not yet manifested. We did not arrive here through empty words. We arrived through alignment. In this moment, every distraction falls away. Every interference loses its power. Every spiritual resistance dissolves. May the environment around this person now be reorganized by the authority of the kingdom. I declare that ancient restraints are broken at the root, not only in their effects, but at their origin. What was holding back, what was delaying, what was confusing, loses its legal ground now. May every cycle of scarcity, a mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial, be brought to an end with a definitive seal. I declare that this person's spirit takes command again, above unstable emotions, above inherited patterns, above limiting beliefs. May every invisible alliance made with fear be annulled. May every inner voice that said, "This is not for you," be silenced. May every memory of loss lose its power over the future. Now I decree, what was withheld is released. What was blocked is unlocked. What was distant is brought near. What seemed impossible becomes accessible. May spiritual keys be delivered. May access be granted. May doors that depended on alignment now respond. I declare that this person's mind enters supernatural clarity, discerning what to accept, what to reject, and what to prioritize. May decisions no longer feel heavy, but be guided by conviction. May all financial confusion be put in order. May all internal disorganization be corrected. May all unproductive waiting be transformed into strategic movement. I decree that resources begin to locate this person, ideas begin to flow, opportunities begin to reveal themselves, and the right connections begin to emerge without strain. May a survival mindset be replaced by the awareness of inheritance. May this person no longer operate at the edge, but in governance. I declare that the spiritual territory expands, and reality begins to respond to this new inner space. Now, with authority, I decree, no loss will define destiny. No delay will cancel the promise. No opposition will be stronger than alignment. May what was built in silence now take form. May what was prepared in the unseen begin to manifest in the seen. May hidden faithfulness be openly rewarded. I declare advancement, I declare access, I declare governance. May this person walk with the certainty that heaven has already decided. And from today on, may signs begin to appear in the name of Jesus. Amen, amen, amen. If this prayer touched deep areas of your life, do not let this movement end here. Subscribe to the channel and remain in this environment. This is not about watching videos. It is about walking in a frequency that generates progress. May you be protected. May you be guided. May you live what has already been released. We walk together.